Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Today, we're going to have the brilliant Danetha Doe of Money and Mimosas here with us. Hi, Danetha.
Hi, Jake. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. How are you today?
Oh, I'm so good. It's a beautiful morning, and I'm excited to chat with you and connect with everyone.
Awesome, awesome. Me too. Yeah, finally, sun's coming out for both of us, so it's always good.
Yes, it's a
Um,
good day.
yeah. So, Danetha is a Jamaican Liberian American journalist, serial entrepreneur, and TV host. She was named Millennial Entrepreneur to Watch by the Office of Congresswoman Barbara Lee, a top 40 under 40 accountant for the CPA Practice Advisor, and a next generation accountant by Hong Kong Institute of CPAs. She was inspired by conversations with girlfriends over bottomless mimosas to launch lifestyle brand Money and Mimosas to provide money and success tips to ambitious women who believe in living a life on their own terms. Danetha has coached over 300 women and has been featured in Fast Company, Elle, Cosmopolitan, 17, and Entrepreneur. Danetha, we are incredibly excited to have you here today. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much, and thanks for sharing my background with me. It's always
Absolutely.
nice to hear all of
Yeah.
that.
So, okay, let's go ahead and dive in. For this webinar, we'll be hosting a question and answer session on turning your passion project into a side gig. We'll talk about identifying your passion, how to make the transition from a passion project to a side gig, and go into the importance of setting weekly money dates. After the Q&A, Danetha and I will take your questions directly from you guys, so please feel free to leave those questions in there now and as we go, and we'll get to them towards the end. And all in all, this webinar shouldn't last more than 30 minutes. So uh, as we get started here, Danetha, can you tell me a little about yourself and a little about Money and Mimosas and how you got started?
Yes, absolutely. Well, a little bit about myself is that I have always had a ton of passions and have always had a challenging time trying to figure out how to make it into a career until I stumbled across this idea that I created called Money and Mimosas, which was inspired by all these conversations that I had with girlfriends over bottomless mimosa brunches, because that's the best time to chat with friends. And I just
Absolutely.
Right? And I just love the feeling that I would have every time I would get with a girlfriend or a group of friends and just drink mimosas and talk about anything, whether it was politics, money, business. And the concept of Money and Mimosas came about after I had a conversation with a group of friends about money in particularly. We were all in different parts of our life. One of us was getting married and she was wondering if she should merge accounts with her new to be husbands. Another one of us was thinking about going through IVF treatments, if she should freeze her eggs and how much money that would cost, how to go through that. And I was thinking about starting a business and how do I fund myself? Should I leave my job, my full-time job, and do it full time? And so all of these conversations and the knowledge that we shared with each other, I realized, wow, I would love if we had a resource that we could go to
Oh,
get
yeah.
these seemingly simple questions answered, but there really wasn't any place that I could find where I could get these answers to these questions. So I started Money and Mimosas just based upon these conversations.
Awesome. Awesome. No, I love that mimosas kind of added as your creative fuel to get that going. That's hilarious and wonderful. I mean, solve all the problems of the world over bottomless mimosas.
I mean, there's a famous quote that says, the problem with the world is that we're all one drink behind.
That's wonderful. I love that. Now, I will say, working with you, I've heard that story a couple times now, but I have to say it is still incredibly inspiring to me. It is just you going out on a limb with incredible confidence and bravery to really run with your passion. Genuinely, it's incredibly inspiring for me. So I know that that's terrifying for a lot of people. So yeah, genuinely, props to you for that. That's you've been so successful, and it's really inspiring. So.
Oh, thank you. Well, you're giving me a lot of credit. I mean, honestly, it came a part of it came about because I realized I had a lot of passions and a lot of drive and nowhere to put it. And I thought this was the place I'm going to put it because every other job I had been an accountant before that. I was a full-time CFO for a creative agency and I kept bumping up against this wall that
Yeah,
I just felt like I wasn't really utilizing all of my skills and passions. So thank you for that
absolutely.
compliment. It was also partially because I had to figure out where I was going to put all this energy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I mean, hey, whatever gets you there.
So true.
So speaking of being things a little terrifying, I know a lot of folks find the creation of digital assets and all of their marketing and branding stuff to be a big hurdle when they're starting out, especially just getting your brand, kind of identifying your brand and everything, and creating all the marketing assets and things along that nature. Can you give me a little background on how you really created your brand for Money and Mimosas and how that got started?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Money and Mimosas has gone through a lot of iterations, and I think that that's what a lot of creatives will say when they talk about their brand or anything that you're creating. The first time is usually not the best one, and it just continues to evolve and grow with you as a person and with the surroundings. So, I mean, currently there's a lot happening in the political space. And so my brand incorporates a piece of that as well. And that's just in response to just being a human being and living in on planet Earth, right? So, in terms of the branding process, for me, it's been an evolution and it's really been taking quiet time and reflecting on what feels most authentic to me, and then using that as my creative and fuel and force in terms of the color theory and all of that behind it. I'm not that sophisticated when it comes to branding and creativity, so I had to read a lot about that, like in terms of what colors really emote certain feelings. And so I'll use a lot of like champagne colors because that emotes luxury and also a sense of calmness. So those were things that I had to read up on. But the other pieces were have been just a reflection of me figuring out how I want to represent myself in the world and honoring where I'm at in my particular season within my life.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. A big thing for that is I know a lot of people are always worried about, that branding, like I said. One of the great things I kind of wanted to talk about PicMonkey is really the ability to create your brand, the majority, if not all of your brand assets without having to hire a design team or really take a bunch of classes on a more complex program. Super intuitive to kind of create all of your brand assets, whether it be business cards, your logo just to start out, doing brand assets like color theory, like you were talking about, and really just getting social posts and everything able to be done easily in PicMonkey, intuitively, just really quick, is one of the things we really strive for, and helping folks like yourself that are just starting out with being able to have all of your marketing and brand assets in one place and being able to create awesome polished designs just one place and ready to go. So
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. I mean, just last night I sent out a pitch to a public company that we are likely going to do some fall campaign work with. And I was racking my brain trying to figure out, okay, how do I visually represent the concept that I want to share with them? Because words, I'm really great with writing and words, but that's a little it's too much information. You need something visual. And I immediately went to PicMonkey, found a template under poster, and that was exactly the design that I needed. I needed to showcase statistics. We've done work with them in the past, and so I needed to showcase what we had accomplished and be able to communicate it in a visually appealing way. And it was so easy using PicMonkey. The colors were exactly what I needed, and the layout of the design was exactly what I was looking for. So yes, to your point, I didn't need to reach out to a designer, and I'm someone that when I have an idea, I need to get it out and get it done quickly. And so I just wanted to log into the application, find something, work my magic, and then send it out to my contacts. So yes, PicMonkey has been such a lifesaver for a lot of reasons, especially when getting pitches out.
That's so awesome to hear. Yeah, that's exactly what we're all about. We genuinely are just so happy to help, and especially smaller businesses be able to, jump in and really get their assets out without having to hire a team of designers. So thankfully, I'm glad to hear that that's worked out for you.
Thank
And
you.
yeah. So Once you identify your passion and really get the creative side of brand assets and all that out of the way, the real work can begin. And for those with passion who really aren't sure where to start, what's the first step on the ladder from going to from a passion project to a side gig to even a full-time business? What does that look like to you?
Yes, I'm glad you phrased it that way, what it looks like to me, because everyone's path is different. I will say that the underlying theme is the financial piece. I mean, the biggest marker, differentiating factor rather, between a passion project going to a side hustle and to a full-time business is how much money are you making? Because you're going to have to support yourself financially. We live on planet Earth, and that's part of what we have signed up for here. So that is the biggest thing that I think takes some time to wrap our head around. Not necessarily just being able to ask for money and being able to charge for it, but it's also understanding, well, how much do I value my services or my products, and how much do I actually need to make in order to be able to cover my bills and be able to cover things that beyond my bills. I want to live a life ideally you want to live a life that you want to build a business that supports your life, not the other way around. So how do you do that financially? That's the next step, is to start thinking about how much time you want to devote to your business, and then realize how much money you need to make in order to make that happen.
Absolutely. And I kind of want to go back to kind of something you said about knowing how much you should charge. Knowing your worth is definitely a big part of it. It's something I know I personally have struggled with in my professional life, especially in my side gigs. How do you start to learn what your time, service, or product is worth?
Yes. Well, the first step is to understand how much money you want to make doing this. A lot of times I find that this is the mistake where most business owners that are starting off falter, is that they'll look to the market to determine how much they should charge for something, which there is value in that. And that is actually the next step in terms of determining how much to charge, is to get a sense of what the market will bear. I live in San Francisco. I'm originally from Indiana. So what I charge here in San Francisco is going to be different than if I was still in Carmel, Indiana, just
100%.
by the nature of the market, right? It's the Bay Area versus the Midwest. However, before I even look at the market, I need to know for myself what I need in order to feel like I'm thriving financially. So that's the first thing that I would suggest when thinking about that, is to sit down with yourself, itemize how much it costs to live your life as is. Know that number. Most people don't know how much it costs we know the basics like rent, food, transportation. But beyond that, like, do you need to get your nails done every couple of weeks? Do you have, and that's serious. I mean, I get my nails done every couple of weeks. That is a business expense. I'm going to a luncheon today and I'm going to be shaking hands. I don't need, my nails need to look good.
Absolutely.
In those sessions. So, things like that, take that into account. Do you have a therapist? I have a healer that I work with, and that's something that is a part of my monthly expenses. That's a non-negotiable. So really think about how much it costs to live your life as is, and then add on about 20% for miscellaneous things. Like you want to do a weekend with your friends, or you want to have an artist day where you take a day off each week to just explore the city around you and be in that tourist mindset, which will drive and fuel a lot of creativity for your business. So that's the first step. Know how much it costs each month to live your life. And then from there, you can figure out how much you need to charge for your services.
Awesome. Now I've just got to see if I can find a way to itemize a deduction for my cappuccinos every day. It fuels me. So it's for work technically. So I got to see if I can talk to my accountant about that.
Well, start a blog called Cappuccinos and Steak and Cappuccinos.
Right? I'm fine with that. If it gets me free cappuccinos, I'm down. I'm totally down.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so once you can quantify and really know how much you and your product or service is valued, how do you know when it's time to make the leap from doing something kind of as just a passion project into a side gig or even a full-time business?
Absolutely. So I'll take that first question first,
Yeah.
like passion project to side
Mhm.
hustle. I would say as soon as you can, start charging, because what a lot of creatives, and I put myself in this category as well, what we can fall into is, well, I just love the opportunity so much to be able to do what I love. Like, I'm not going to charge you for it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just so grateful. And that's a beautiful place to be in and
Oh
continue to
yeah.
have that mindset. However, at the same time, your work is incredibly valuable. And if you don't charge, then you're diluting the market. So another creative that's doing the same thing as you and is charging money for it, they can have their work diluted by someone that isn't charging for it. They're doing it for free. So you want to keep in mind your own needs, and also remember that you are also a part of the bigger profession. For instance, if you're a photographer, and you're not charging for your services, that's great. If you're doing trade, everyone does that in the beginning, and I still occasionally will do that, depending on who I'm working with. But at a point, you want to recognize that your craft and your profession deserves to be valued from a
Oh yeah.
financial standpoint. So as soon as you can, just start charging. And it doesn't have to be a ton in the beginning. We're not talking about supporting yourself full time,
Yeah.
but shifting that mindset from passion project to a side hustle is a money mindset shift. So start charging. There's not a magic number. I wish I had a magic number, like the fifth time
Yeah.
you do a service, but you'll know.
Yeah.
Really trust yourself, and that's the beauty of being an entrepreneur, is learning how to trust ourselves. So start charging once it feels right, from when you go from a passion project to a side hustle. Now that shift from a passion project to, or a side hustle to a full-time business, that's when you want to put some pen to paper and really think about things like I just mentioned, all of those, the expenses of living your life. I mean, you
Oh,
also want to
absolutely.
consider now health insurance. You
Mhm.
also want to consider retirement planning.
Mhm.
Don't get overwhelmed by that though. Just, start thinking about, like, if you're working at a job and you have a full-time salary, the easiest way to make to calculate it is just know that you have to replace that salary at
Mhm.
some point.
Yeah.
So just use that as a marker. Now, the thing with your salary is, what it doesn't include are the income taxes that you have to cover. So right now, if you're working full time, you're only covering half of the income taxes. So you have to cover the half that the company's paying. When you're a full time business owner, you cover both
Mhm.
sides of that coin. So so yeah, so but the easiest way to think about it is just, how can I replace my salary? And that's the next step when you want to move from a side hustle to a full-time business.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. That's just, yeah, that sounds good.
And
Um,
I just want to add to that, everyone is different. I definitely leaped into my business full time without replacing my salary completely. I just
oh,
went
wow.
for it. So, and that's not to say that I recommend that.
Yeah,
You have to know yourself and know how much you can tolerate, how much pain you can tolerate, honestly.
exactly. That goes back to
But
your confidence and bravery, Danitha, like I said, because like that's super, super brave of you to do. You have to have a lot of confidence to be able to do that.
that, or a healthy level of delusion.
That too. They
Yeah.
go hand in hand. They're pretty much confidence and a healthy level of delusion. Yeah, it's totally fine. A little bit of
Yeah,
both.
a little bit of both.
All right, so once you've made the decision to really start charging for your work, what are the first three things you recommend doing when launching your brand?
So the first thing I would recommend doing is getting really clear on your why. And you probably have already heard this before. Maybe this is the first time you've heard it, but it's worth always going back to. I mean, at least once a quarter, so 4 times a year, I have to remind myself of why I'm doing this. Like, really tap into that. And each time I do, the layers are peeled back a little bit more, it becomes a little bit firmer, clearer, deeper, more
Absolutely.
grounded. So know your why. And if you want a resource for that, go on YouTube and check out a TED Talk by Simon Sinek called Start
Okay.
with Why. That's
Ooh.
a really, really great, it's about 20 minutes long, really great place to start with in terms of understanding like the bigger bolder reason why you are doing this. And it could be because you want to change the world. It could be that you want to create a legacy for your children. It could be that you just want to be able to do yoga at noon on Thursdays. Really, that was my why when I started. I mean, now I know that it's around freedom and self-expression. But when I first started, I was like, I just want to take a yoga class at noon on a Thursday and not have to tell anyone. Like, I just want to be able to do it.
Yeah.
So that was my why when I first started. And then the second step is to think about if, well, I'm assuming that you already have a passion project and a side
Yeah.
hustle, like you
Yeah.
know the service that you want to offer. Then think about one service that you want to focus on in terms of, and this is where I kind of got hung up in the beginning, where I just, whenever a client would come to me, I was like, well, I'll just like create something based upon what they need and I'll tailor it, which is great. At the same time, it would have been great, it, in hindsight, it would have been helpful if I had had a core service that I
Yeah.
could offer. And then from there, determine how I could tailor it to each client. So create a core service with a price tag that you can then mold and shape depending upon the client that comes to you, or the prospective client that comes to you. And then the
Yeah.
third step is to get out there. This is the hardest part sometimes when first starting a business, is to share your services with others. And this means like going to networking events, going to Facebook groups and connecting with people and just letting people know that, hey, this is what I'm offering right now. And and I'd love to chat with you if this is something that I
Yeah.
could help you with. So those would be the three steps I would take that are pretty easy, easier said than done, but they are, it's pretty straightforward in terms of
Yeah.
getting the word out about your services.
Yeah. No, honestly, that networking is a big aspect of it. You really do have to just kind of put yourself out there and really be as confident as you can in your product and your service or your brand, and just really be able to speak to it. Because when it's you just by yourself, you have to wear all the hats, whether that's marketing, sales, all of it. So yeah, that's super, super important to be able to get out there and do
Yeah,
that.
and networking can also be social networking. So back
Yeah.
like using social media graphics, using PicMonkey, like that can be a part of your networking, especially if you're a little shy or concerned about like actually meeting people in
Oh yeah.
person. It's okay. You can ease into that. You can use your social media platforms as a way to network. So whichever feels most comfortable to you at this stage, do that. But
Oh
yes,
yeah.
networking is very important.
Absolutely. No, 100%. So one thing that I want to ask about is how important is really just tracking your finances when you get started? Because I know for me, I don't have a specific side gig that I'm marketing, but I know just in my own personal life, tracking my finances is just, it feels daunting, and it's one of those things that I need to do and I should be doing as a 30-year-old full adult now. But it's just it's super daunting. At least it feels like that to me. But how important is really tracking your money, especially when starting out to turn a passion project into a side gig?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's daunting and honestly, it's boring. I mean, it's not something that I would say is on the top of most people's list as something like, oh, I want to do this. So the key is to make it fun, which is why I recommend, or why the phrase money and mimosas is together, is to try to add a little bit of creativity and childlikeness. I mean, over 21 childlikeness.
Yeah.
So, um, when it comes to tracking your money, though, I like to say like the first dollar that you spend on your business, on your idea, on your side hustle, on your passion project, start tracking it.
Yeah.
Because if we wait until we make money, you have invested all this time, money, and resources leading up to that, which should be accounted for, because give yourself some credit. Like, you put in the time, the money, and the effort before you see that money come back to you. So that's the first reason. It's just, hey, this is an opportunity for you to pat yourself on the back. Like, you're putting yourself out on the limb, you're investing in yourself, track it. It's important for that reason, and it's important, for tax reasons. Like, you want to be able to write it off as
Yeah.
well. And also, it's important to be able to do that so that you can start getting in that mindset of being an entrepreneur. As I shared earlier in the beginning, the biggest shift from passion project to side hustle to small business is the bottom line. It's the money aspect. And there's a lot of people that are in that passion project phase, even though they may have a huge following or they may have a lot of opportunities coming their way, that it's not making them any money. So that it's not their side hustle, it's not their full-time business. So that is the biggest differentiating factor. So in order to shift that mindset, you have to start orienting yourself to looking at your money on a regular basis. And so if your passion project isn't currently making you money right now, start with, like you said, Jake, with your personal finances. And I would just sign up for an app, make it really easy for yourself. Can I name a couple on here?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool. I have no affiliation to them, but they're like Mint, Personal Capital. If you don't want to use Excel, you can use those apps and you just attach it to your bank account. And what's great about them is they keep it all in one place and you can auto categorize it fairly easily. And that will help you get a sense of how much you spend on your personal expenses each month, so that once you do want to shift to a full-time business, you already have an idea of what you need to make.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you sit down once a month, once a week, or how often do you usually go over your finances?
So I love doing it once a week. And the reason why I do this, I call it a weekly money date, is because if I wait, yes, I love having dates. I love having them with myself and with other
Absolutely.
people.
We're gonna talk about money, might as well do it and have fun doing it.
Yes, exactly. So I do it once a week, and instead of once a month, I personally will feel overwhelmed if I wait until the end of the month to check everything. And I've actually had instances where I was charged more than I should have for like my internet bill. And if I
Mhm.
hadn't caught it right away, then I mean, of course, they would have adjusted it later, but it was
Yeah.
nice to be able to catch it right away. And the only reason I was able to do that was because I do a weekly money date. And so I do this, yep, every Friday morning, where I'll sit down, look at my finances, and then I'll have a date, usually with one or a couple of friends, to chat about any collaboration ideas or some other things, which I know we'll get into here in a
Yeah,
second.
yeah, yeah. No, honestly, I love, since money is so tricky, I really love kind of, being able to make it like a date, make it kind of fun and, really be able to make yourself sit down and do that. And a lot of it, I feel like there's a lack of confidence with finances. Like I said, I find it kind of daunting and I maybe a little overwhelming sometimes, and I don't really have a lot of the confidence in my own finances. So for you personally, and kind of for everybody, how did you really build confidence in yourself and in finances and be able to have that confidence and a little bit of delusion to go out on a limb like that?
Yes, definitely. Confidence is one of the biggest factors when it comes to financial success. Um, I was going to share a story there, but I'll leave that possibly for later. But anyway, confidence. Just know that confidence is the biggest key to financial success. I mean, we can see examples of that where there are folks that are maybe not as intelligent as we may have thought they were, but they have a lot of money because they're confident in their ability and they're happy with what they're doing and they make it work for themselves. So for me, confidence is it's an ongoing process. I like to say financial freedom is a journey of self love. And so the more I accept myself and love myself and find joy in what I'm doing, the world reflects that back to me. And I truly believe that I'm not the only one that that happens to. I think it's just a human experience. And
Yeah.
so with confidence, I'm more confident than I was when I first started my business almost 8 years ago. And I hope that I'm more confident 8 years from now. It's just an ongoing experience or an ongoing journey. The way I've gotten built my confidence is by doing these weekly money dates, what I didn't want to do them. And also, like the times when money was tight or the times when business wasn't really going the way I wanted to do it, if I just sat down and looked at my finances, I would realize, oh, things aren't that bad, or maybe things are that bad, but I addressed it and it's fine, and I'm still here. There's still a roof over my head, all those good things. Also, what I do daily is I'll read at least one article about money, anything about money. It could be international economics, it could be about, it could be a tax reform, anything to do with money, just so that I better understand the language around money. And just understanding the language and the topics and concepts around money, you start to develop a sense of confidence around it. It's just like going to the gym. Like the first time you try a new class, or I started doing weightlifting a couple of years ago. When I first started weightlifting, I was not confident at all. I mean, I was lifting like 30 pounds trying to do this deadlift or whatever. And I was really timid. But over time, being disciplined, consistent, showing up, it started to become something that I felt more and more comfortable with, to the point where I'm now more confident in the gym and being able to do those moves. So the same thing goes with money, similar to fitness.
Yeah, no, you just got to actually just build the confidence and work at it. That is really good. So I'd love to actually grab some questions. I think we have a few here from participants. So let's see. The first question is, what is the best way, let's see, to get funding?
Ooh,
You have a
that's
great
a
idea, or for something for an online company, and you're looking for finding a way to get funding.
Okay. So I can speak to this personally. I got funding. I got $5,000 as a loan. I applied for funding when I first started my bookkeeping business. From my experience, they going through that process, it's important to have a business plan, which
Okay.
is something that you don't necessarily need if you're not going for funding, because you're not going to present it to someone else. But if you're going for funding, having a business plan is really important. So and you can just Google business plan and get a template. The key piece that they're going to look at are the financial projections, like how much do you think you'll earn at what period of time, when, and then when do you think you'll be cash flow positive, ideally soon, depending
Mhm.
upon the business that you have. If we're talking, you said online company, tech companies tend to have a longer runway. So depending upon what type of business you have, you may not be cash flow positive ever, because that's just the nature of
Yeah,
that type of business. So
absolutely.
I would say that's the first step, is to Google business plan, create your own business plan, and then start Googling different avenues for getting funding. Typically, if you go the traditional bank route, that's going to be a little bit more challenging in terms of the requirements. So if you're going for an SBA loan, the minimum you'll need to ask for is $250,000. So if that's what you're looking for, then you'll want to talk to your local bank about their process. Sit down with a business banker and ask them what their process is. Otherwise, you can look at local micro lenders. Those are lenders that offer loans under $250,000. And micro lenders, if you're based in the States, they're in every state. So every state, a lot of cities have resources where you can get funding for your business at really low interest rates. I'm talking like
Really?
less than 5%. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So check out micro lenders in your area, or if you're looking for, like I said, more than $250,000, look at local businesses. And that's, of course, not talking about VCs and angel investing, but just those two traditional routes. Yeah.
I had no idea those resources even existed. That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, we are fortunate in the States to live in a country that really prides itself on innovation. So
Yeah,
there's a
absolutely.
lot of resources to help entrepreneurs get their ideas off the ground.
Awesome. Yeah, no word, a nation of small businesses. So I'm glad that there are those resources to really help folks because honestly, I mean, small businesses drive the country. So that's really cool to hear. I had no idea.
Yeah.
All right. Next question here is, oh, I love this one. How did you slash do you handle adversity and doubt?
Ooh, great question. Well, I drink a lot of alcohol. That's very helpful. And then I go see my therapist. Yes, that's kind of joking, kind of not. But when it comes to adversity, and I faced a lot of adversity for a lot of different reasons with business. Being an entrepreneur, sometimes being the only one in the room, sometimes, depending upon what we're referencing when it comes to adversity and doubt. For me, what really helps is to find my center. So I joked about alcohol and therapy work, but sometimes it is that. Sometimes it's journaling. Sometimes it's going on a walk. Sometimes it's calling up a girlfriend. Sometimes it's talking to my now fiance. Sometimes this is one of my favorite ways to handle adversity or doubt is to find someone that's doing something, doing what I want to be doing, and just observing them. So one of my favorites is Kim Kardashian West. Some days when I feel really low, and days when I feel great too. I'll watch her interview videos, but I just love what she's built, the platform that she's built, and she brings me so much joy and inspiration. And so find someone like that for you, and just watch their interviews and get inspiration. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah. No, that sounds good. I mean, honestly, just using social media platforms like that and finding people that are either doing something similar or something in the same realm, and kind of just seeing how they're successful is, I think, a great way to start out, especially to help you build confidence, just because it's hard to go out by yourself. And to see other people doing something similar is really rewarding and confidence boosting. So yeah, that's wonderful. Okay, and then this kind of goes on the same thing here, same vein. What do you think is the best place? Which social media network do you think is the best to start out?
Oh, okay. That really depends on the type of business you have. Personally, I'll talk about my experience. So when I first started off, I got a lot of deals meeting like corporate clients from
Mhm.
being on Twitter
Okay.
because that's where they were looking. I do a lot of work in the CPA world, so certified professional accountants world, and that's where a lot of those folks hang out. However, as I started working with more lifestyle brands, Instagram was where I needed to connect with them. So it really depends on the type of business you have,
Yeah.
where your folks are hanging out, and what feels most authentic to you. So I would say choose one in the beginning that
Okay.
kind of loops in all three of those aspects and just go hard with that area.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah, and I love your Instagram, by the way. It's very well done.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have time for one last question. Let's see here. Oh, this is also a good one. Have you experienced failure as an entrepreneur, and how did you deal with it?
Oh my gosh, yes, I've experienced so many challenging moments. I used to call failures and now I see them as life lessons. And honestly, after reflecting on them, I realized that they were also blessings. I was
Yeah,
probably living out the wrong dream for myself, and that so-called failure redirected me to the path that was most in alignment for myself. The one that comes to mind is my first business. So I didn't share this in the beginning. I used to be an NFL cheerleader, and right towards the end of my career in that, I started a business doing activewear for NFL cheerleaders and NBA dancers.
Okay.
And I completely ran out of money. It was a complete flop. I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, I kind of did, but not really.
Yeah.
And it was, I spent so much money on it, and I was so depressed because I had this huge
Oh,
dream and this huge vision for where I thought my life was going to go. And it totally went in a totally different direction. Now, looking back on that business, which would have been 10 years old this year, I realized I would never have met my fiance if that business had come to fruition. I would never have moved to California, likely. I would never have experienced all these different things that I've been able to do over this last decade if that business had succeeded in the way that I thought it should have. And so, how I deal with failure now, or things not turning out the way that I want them to, is to remind myself that the experience is what is most important, and to try to take a lesson from it that I can apply to my future businesses or future ideas. So with that particular business, the biggest lesson I learned was, from a business perspective, was cash flow. That every business has seasonality, that there are going to be times when business cash is coming in beautifully, and then other times when it's a little bit slower, and to be comfortable in those times of slowness,
mhm.
and to be comfortable and accepting of that period where I know I need to sit and enjoy life or reflect. And that's the biggest lesson that I learned from it. And I try to practice that in my business today. It's a little tough since I'm super ambitious and always are go, go, go. But I
Yeah.
try to remember that those moments are blessings when I can just take a step back, reflect, and then launch forward once the business starts picking up again.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I really love how you're able to stay positive and how you keep that positive outlook. And honestly, it's so incredibly valuable to be able to learn from failure and not just assume that it's the end and it's the worst thing in the world that can happen, and to be able to actually, take something from each experience, whether it's a positive, negative, whether it's a failure or success, being able to learn from that is so incredibly valuable. And it's a lesson that I know it took me a long time to learn. I know it takes folks just a long time to be able to get to, but it's a great place to get there. So yeah, that's really good to hear.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so before we go, Danetha, can you tell me how to get started with Money and Mimosas?
Yeah, for sure. Well, yes, Money and Mimosas, one of our core beliefs is the importance of a weekly money date.
Mhm.
And the weekly money date is where you sit down every Friday and look at your finances the last 7 days. That's the first step. There are 5 steps. The second step is then to pay yourself first. So this is either to your savings accounts or your investing account. The
Mhm.
third step is then to review your invoices, so who owes you. And then the fourth step is to review who you owe, so any upcoming bills,
Mhm.
and getting those squared away. And then the fifth step is to celebrate, and that means to celebrate your wins, grab a mimosa with a friend, have a money date with that friend. And during that date, you can talk about money, you can talk about anything
Yeah.
because life
Yeah.
is all related. But have a date where you're celebrating life, because that's what we're all here to do.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
so that's how you get started with Money and Mimosas, is having your weekly money date, celebrating with a mimosa. And we do a weekly newsletter every Wednesday. So the next one comes out tomorrow morning, and it's all
Good.
free. You get it on moneyandmimosas.com. You can sign up on moneyandmimosas.com to get that weekly newsletter.
Perfect. It's super exciting. Okay, folks, and if you actually would like to win a free 30-minute session with Danitha on how to monetize your passion project or increase your revenue, as well as a year free of PicMonkey Pro, we are starting later today a project or a contest called the Passion Project Contest. It is going to be we're going to have you make, to enter, we want you to create a mood board for your passion. So like a passion board, post it to Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, and tag PicMonkey and Money and Mimosas. PicMonkey will post some examples like these guys here, and for you to be able to post them. And then we will announce a winner and more details about the contest later today. So it's a great way to win time with Danetha and also PicMonkey Pro. So it's please enter.
Yay. Can I share a couple of success stories just so
Yeah,
folks have an
absolutely.
idea?
Yeah.
So there, I'm not sure if we have the slides up. A few of the women that I've worked with, and I work with men as well. Um, the slide or the examples I share with you.
Yeah.
There was one woman that I worked with who has always wanted to be a writer, and she though never thought that she could make that happen full time. So she was always doing it
Yeah.
on the side while being a full time product marketer. And she came to me a few years ago. It was about 3.5 years ago. We grabbed mimosas. We had a happy hour date, and she was just sharing with me what her dreams were, and that it kept coming back to writing, but she wasn't aware that that was even her dream. Like she was literally talking herself in circles. I'm like, we keep coming back to writing. Why aren't you making this your thing? And she's
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that that's really what my passion is, but I don't know how to make that happen.
Yeah.
So we started working together, and within 3 weeks, she landed her first full, or not full time, her first
Yeah.
true copywriting gig. And
Oh,
now
awesome.
she's a full time cannabis writer. So she covers the
Oh,
cannabis industry and travels around, goes to conferences, and writes about different businesses and the regulations around it.
wow.
So that's one of the women that I've worked with. Another woman that I worked with is a former therapist, and she always wanted to be a body image coach.
Oh,
And she
wow.
didn't know how to make that transition because
Yeah.
it's a little difficult transitioning from being a therapist to a coach, and she wasn't sure how to market herself as an independent. She was
Mhm.
working for a therapy company before then. And we worked together for 3 months, and now she's a full time body image coach and is able
Wow.
to do speaking and working with women. And she has a beautiful story because part of her journey has been her own body positivity journey. And so now she's able to share that love with her clients. So those are some of the people that I've worked with. And it's truly, truly fulfilling, not just helping folks make money doing what they love, because money is really important. It's also realizing that what you truly desire is actually possible. That light bulb switch is like what I live for. It's like almost I can see it in someone's eyes. It's like a click in their eyes when they
Yeah.
realize, really, like, oh my gosh, what I've always kind of thought was possible, what I knew as a kid that I wanted to do, but I somehow forgot when I got older, is actually something that I can make happen. So yes, if that's something you're interested in, I'd love to chat with you. It's a free session,
Yay.
and let's make magic together.
Awesome. Well, that's so wonderful to have. Yeah, it's so wonderful to end on. I love hearing stories like that. And I am so glad to be working with you. I'm so glad to help push that story because really is inspiring what you do. And I'm so glad that you get to help people and be able to make people a success and find their success and really find their passion. So again, truly inspiring, Danetha. And it was great to talk to you.
Thanks, Jake. So great to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks everybody for joining in. We'll post this later, so if people didn't get a chance to see it, they'll be able to see it later, or if you want to rewatch it. So have a wonderful afternoon, guys. Thanks so much, Danetha.
Thanks, Jake. Bye.